The social fabric of Montgomery County seems to be pulling apart in so many different directions. Last Saturday, 3 churches, 1 Roman Catholic, 1 Methodist, and 1 Baptist, were vandalized. 2 of the churches were set ablaze. Mike, is the county reacting appropriately to what appears to be left-wing violence by pro-abortion groups?
Well, I guess I would take a little exception to the end of that sentence. I mean, I think that there is, one, I think the county is taking appropriate actions. Unfortunately, we in Montgomery County have seen violence against places of worship more than we'd like to, and whether it's been our synagogues or our mosques. And so I think the county understands the sensitivities and how to engage with the particular communities, to work within those communities to make sure that people feel safer and secure. I think we also have a lot of places of worship, and so I think it's challenging to preemptively determine where things are going to be and where things may occur next. I am, and unfortunately this happened even in my own church, I am a little concerned at the notion that, or even a lot concerned at the notion that we're trying to be more divisive and assume that this must be pro-choice activists, and I'm just not. I haven't seen any indication of that. I've seen speculation. I've seen a message come out from my church saying we should be vigilant. And to me, we're at a time where, if anything, we should figure out how to engage in a dialogue that's going to be a really challenging dialogue for our country for the coming months, weeks, months, years. And I think our faith communities have to figure out a productive way to help engage in that conversation. And I haven't seen, unfortunately, at least personally, anecdotally, that that type of approach coming out yet. I've seen much more of a defensive posture and much more of an assertive posture and aggressive posture, as opposed to how do we engage in a productive conversation posture. And I think that's got to happen in order for this to get better.
Well, from my perspective, the announcement that the county executive released after these terrible incidents was inadequate, was not strong and forceful enough, and I think it does a disservice. Mark, let's get your opinion on this.
Well, I think, I mean, to pick up the point where we've now taken what was seen for 50 years as a judicial issue, and it has now become a political issue. It is a political question, and it is going to be challenging in our jurisdiction and other jurisdictions around the country to get that right. Obviously, there are difficult choices involved in that, and it's going to be that much harder because we now don't have the courts to tell us what to do. We're going to have to rely on legislators to make those choices. Violence and what have you are completely inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I mean, this isn't just an isolated incident. There are other incidents that are occurring in the county that also are related. And Mark, the Washington Post editorialized that the county executive needs to enforce existing picketing laws to address the lawlessness which is occurring in front of Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh's home. Followed up by the Montgomery County Police announcing that they're going to start enforcing the law. So this isn't the first example.
Well, you're right, and I mean, one of the challenges in this is that let's distinguish between the role of the courts, which is to settle legal disputes, and not to set public policy. And what they've done is move things back to that. Judges are not supposed, picketing judges is really not all that effective, since that's not how they decide cases, by measuring public opinion. And I think we're kind of adjusting to that transition. Listen, I understand the frustration, and I understand that people want to express that frustration. I don't agree, but as part of the democratic process. That said, there are limits, and I think there's limits that in many cases have been gone beyond what's appropriate.
Mike, let me just phrase this, appropriately, because I thought the Washington Post editorial, which honed in on the county executive's benign neglect, was rather significant. He said, the Post said that if you're unhappy with the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs, you have a right to express yourself
Yeah.
But the 3 justices who live in Montgomery County have a right to feel safe and secure in their homes.
I don't disagree with that, but I wouldn't necessarily put those two where we started our conversation and protesting in the same capacity. One, people shouldn't be vandalizing or shouldn't be setting fire to churches or any elements of in our faith community, irrespective of what's going on out there. Second, I think we have a very raw issue. I think people are still trying to kind of discern how does this get played, and we're in a place where Supreme Court justices actually live. There aren't many places in the country that actually exists, and so I think people have gone beyond the bounds of what they should do, and I think we've got to be able to reassert what kind of the rules of engagement need to be, and I think we should. I don't think the Post was wrong at all in their editorial. I think we need to make sure that there are boundaries, people understand what those boundaries are, but protesting on a street with a sign is not the same thing as setting a fire to a church or anything else, or actual violence. Those two things are very different activities, and I don't think we should conflate those.
Well, here's where they're linked, Mike, and this is where I will disagree with you. It was the condoning of the blatant and over-the-top protesting outside of Kavanaugh's home. It was by the Janes, by the Ruth Sinis group. Their announcement on Twitter that they were putting a bounty on these Supreme Court justices, and they were doxing these Supreme Court justices. And the county executive said nothing. He brushed off the Supreme Court marshal's concern as a publicity stunt. It's the condoning of these illegal activities which is the link. Lawlessness doesn't occur in a vacuum. And when criminals think they can get away with it because there's lawlessness, they're going to do it.
Well, and unfortunately, we've seen this lawlessness take place as a result of over the last year and a half. So, I mean, if you're going to start linking those types of activities, we can go back to January 6th or preceding that, unfortunately, because we have had too many cases of those examples in our country over the last year and a half. And either side has been trying to justify their activities as either benign or as justified, and in no case are those actions appropriate, and it shouldn't be. So if we're going to step back,
in neither case should it be tolerated, but neither should have been the rioting and burning of cities. Shouldn't have been tolerated either. I want to go on to, I'm sorry, but we have to go on to our next topic.